Hello everyone, I've had a lot of suggestions asking me to create new builds after the update. So in this video, we're going to be looking at Archer. We're going to start by going straight into the stats, and we're going to start with the offensive stats. Please note that these stats are unaffected by potions or any other effects. Obviously, when we do Fatal Bridge, these stats will go up with potions, but for now, these are just the stats without potions or any other effects like that. Damage is at 14k. Now, before the update, 18k was the target, so you might think this is actually kinda low. I don't think you need 18k damage anymore, but you might want this to be a little higher than 14k. Haste, I don't really care about anymore. There is a little bit of haste in my equipment, as we'll see, but I'm a bit slow. Armor pen is probably the most interesting stat here because it's at 66%. Before the update, armor pen was probably the stat that everyone was trying to increase and having difficulty increasing. However, I've realized with other people's builds that armor pen is actually really low now after the update. You'll see that for me, there's no gems for armor pen, but a lot of my equipment has armor pen stats. So in the grand scheme of things, armor pen here is quite high. Critical rate is actually only 90%. Now, before the update, we were looking at 100% critical rate. Here, we're only looking at 90. Obviously, with the adaptation passive, this should go up, but even then, we're not hitting 100k. Not 100k, 100%. Critical severity is at 302%. I do have the ferocity rune, so this should go up, but again, it's lower than before. Obviously, skill recovery and other stats in the offensive are less important, but as you can see, obviously stats are lower than before the update, but they're reasonably high. I think damage probably should be a little bit higher, critical rate might be a little bit higher, but then at the same time you could actually argue that armor pen could be a little lower. Now we're going to be moving on to the defensive stats, and we're starting with health, and as you can see, only 46k. It is really, really low. It's so low that you could probably call this build a glass cannon build because of it. It is so low, and to be fair, the potions will have to raise it. I don't have any energy shield. Health regen is probably less important. Defense is at 69%, 69, but all jokes aside, you'd probably want this a little higher. Defense isn't that important, but you probably want it a little higher than 69%. But the most interesting stat here is block rate. Now, before the update, you basically needed 100% block rate. It was something that most people in their builds were telling you to get, 100% block rate. Here, it's only 92%. Now, I have used block rate gems, and obviously with the adaptation passive and other potions, this will raise it. But it's not 100%, and actually I've looked at other people's builds after the update and they're not at 100%. I think one of them was like 99 that I've seen, but not many people are looking for 100% block rate anymore, which probably shows, number one, how weak the enemies have gotten, but also two, how harder it is to reach 100% crit rate and block rate. Block severity, 78.9%. I think it's quite high. I've looked at other people's and it's pretty low. And I'm just going to say now, mana is at 100, so that's pretty low. But as you can see here, defensively, we're not looking great. I think if this was before the update, this character wouldn't stand a chance. But as you'll see here, obviously with the help of potions and stuff, we complete Fatal Bridge with this. Now it's time to look at the equipment that's helped me obviously get these stats. And I'm not going to go through each one, but I'm just going to highlight some key points. The first thing you'll notice is, besides the rings, I've only used one unique item. I think there might be two. No, there's only one. The rest have been handcrafted. Now, this did take a ridiculously long time, and I'll probably not do it again. But as a result, all of my stats are yellow, so they're high, and a lot of them are really specific. I think you'll see that a lot of the attack minded equipment, so your weapons, your quivers, but also stuff like your gauntlets and your shoulder pads, or pauldrons as it's called in the game, are actually pretty attacking. They've got armor pen and crit severity. I think armor pen's probably the stat that kind of comes up the most. There's very little damage actually, which I probably should have increased. And then you'll see with like stuff like helmets, trousers and stuff, pants, they're more geared towards block rate and block severity. The only thing that's like mixed is obviously the shoes, which are obviously from the Doomsday set. And the only reason I didn't change that is because I didn't think I could find anything better. It was mostly defense, so I decided to keep it. In terms of my rings, I think they're actually really important. I got the Protector's ring, and I think without this, I probably would struggle in Fatal Bridge. Obviously, there is a damage buff, damage reduction, and it has, of course, block rate, block severity, defense. The other one is Viper's ring. I actually only recently got that, and I was really happy when I got that because it allowed me to increase my crit severity and armor pen and haste. And of course, it obviously does poison upgrade, adds poison as a passive, which is also nice. But as you can see, overall, it's a very craft heavy set of items. There's not many unique items in there, and I'll probably do a video of just unique items in a set and see how that works. But yeah, this is very craft heavy with very specific stats that I was looking for. Finally, let's take a look at my passive skill tree, and as you can see, it's relatively spread out. It's not as spread out as before, but it is more spread out. I've collected all the block rate because I wanted to try and reach 100%, but I realized this is kind of impossible. I've collected a lot of critical rate as well because I realized my critical rate was low, so I used the passive skill tree to boost that. You'll realize I have collected quite a lot of passive abilities, like adaptation and stuff. I felt this was because I was going to need them, and they have helped me in Fatal Bridge. I also collected the starting nodes of Warrior and Mage because I wanted the buffs and the upgrades that they kind of, give you. You'll realize that I haven't actually pushed armor pen, critical severity, block severity as much as I usually do in my builds before the update. I usually try and go there and collect them all, but I couldn't, simply because I actually just ran out of points. I think things are more spread out after the update, so you have to be careful about how you spend your points. It's the same thing with mana. Usually I'd go all the way to the top and collect mana, but again, I just ran out of points, so I couldn't really do so. Now here's some gameplay of me playing Fatal Bridge with this build. So after watching that, I want to go through a few points about that run. Obviously, I used a lot of potions, more potions than I have ever used before, which shows you that I was a little nervous going in because the defensive stats in particular weren't very high. But as you saw, I actually completed a Fatal Bridge, I would say relatively comfortably. I'm using the immunity rune, but I don't think it activated, or at least it probably only activated like once or twice. I wasn't really at any point close to death, and even if I was, it was probably more due to lag than enemy strength, and that shows you how Fatal Bridge has become far more weaker. Enemies have become far more weaker after the update, so even though your character will probably seem weaker, I can assure you that the enemies are also just as weak. So if you have, access to a lot of potions, to legendary potions, you don't need to have 100% critical rate or the 97 critical rate. You don't need 100% block rate. You don't need high 80s armor pen or block severity. If you've got a good balance of stats and you have access to these potions, you can complete Fatal Bridge with lower stats than you had before, especially defensively. And I also think that this current Fatal Bridge gives the glass cannon build a bit more leeway and makes it easier to pass Fatal Bridge. But with that being said, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching.